Hi, I'm Captain Larry Bell with Texas Fishing Tips, and this is your weekly fishing report.
Getting down here past Cottonwood Bayou, all the way down toward Panther Point, Panther Lake, Swan Lake, all that area down in here. Good amount of fish that have been working up and down this shoreline. We've got some trout that are pushing up here around the edge of Panther Point. The one thing about these trout, though, a lot of them are small, but you can get through 10 or 15 of them and you'll find a decent trout that'll be in there, maybe a 17 or 18. But there is a lot of trout that are in this area, so if you just want to go down and have some fun catching some trout, then this is an area that you probably want to target. The one thing that's been really good here is now that we're in our transition, our 5 days prior to with the new moons coming up and the 5 days right after a new moon, the down south supermodels have been very productive. Chicken of the Sea, Magic Grass, True Plum has been good. Those three right there, the three that I throw all the time, and then of course the burner shad and the chicken of the sea supernatural have been really good as well. But all this area here all the way up to Panther, all these little back lakes that dump out in here, there's been some nice redfish that's been cruising in and out of there. You have to work for your redfish up in this area. There's been, like I say, a good amount of bait that's been pushing in those back lakes. But throw your topwater up in there. There's been some really good topwater action on these redfish with the topwater. And if they don't necessarily get super aggressive and eat it, and they're just slapping at it and swirling on it and just keep slapping and playing with it, put the double D on, get it down a little bit closer to their face, a little bit below that surface of that water, and then those fish will start to eat that. And then you can throw your plastics in there behind it if you got a couple of guys that are working with you or whatever. But that's a really good tactic that you can do if those fish won't attack that topwater bait. But continue to work all these areas up and down here. Find your bait. Pay attention to what your majors and minors are doing. It's been very important this week as well. And once you locate those fish, just go to town and go work on them. All the way up here, area called the Runway or Rattlesnake Reef, this area all the way up and down here. Look for your submerged grass. Find that area that's got that grass. It's all up and down this area here. You got these back lakes that come butt up right next to it. One thing that you can do, get your topwater bait out. Once you find a little area there that you can walk over that island, get in that back lake back there. It's a little soft, but you can walk it, throw the topwater back there. Man, there's been some redfish that are cruising in and out and up and around all this area back there in those back lakes back here. If your boat's not skinny enough that you can get there back to it, again, our water levels have dropped out somewhat since the hurricane has pushed on, so we've kind of leveled out that way. But again, you pay attention to what your tides are doing. When you're going to have a high tide back in this area here, look for your bait working all back in that area here. And if you love throwing the topwater, whatever it is, Spook Junior, Skitter Walk, whatever you like, as long as it's got a white belly on it or a silver belly on it, because what most of your bait fish are going to be like, throw that thing. Throw it up in there and work all the little islands that are in there, the little grass patches. You'll be pleasantly surprised at what kind of fish that you'll find laying back in these areas. It's a lot of fun, too. One thing you do need to be aware of, though, there are a couple of gators that cruise back in that area, so be aware of that if that's what you'd like to do. Just make sure that you're kind of keeping your head on a swivel and you see that and look around and see if there's anything like that laying around up there, because they do reside up in that area. But if you don't want to get back in the back lake and you want to stay out on the Mesquite Bay side, work your plastics. Work your plastics off that grass, find the pockets, pick those edges, find bait working there. There's been some nice fish that are being caught. As far as trout goes, there's been some in those lower slot levels. The 17s to 19s, there's been some really good thick trout that are in there. And if you don't need them, let them go. Just continue to practice that catch and release, if you will. And there's redfish that are cruising up here in the grassier areas. There is a lot of grass that's up here on this big cedar flat, so you may want to get that thing rigged up with your weedless setup, either 16th or 8th ounce, either one. Throwing the supermodel and the chicken of the sea and the magic grass have been very good, very productive up in this area here. Off the point of Dunham, right around here as you come around the ICW, come right down this shoreline, work this thing. Get out of your boat. Nice, good bottom. There's a lot of different structure that's in here. There's some pretty good grass that's in here. You got scattered shell that's in here. Water levels have been really good, working up and down. There's been a decent amount of bait that's working over there, so it's holding some fish. There's been some decent amount of trout size-wise that have been in here. It's been in the 16s to 18s and a bunch of dinkers. There's still a bunch of dinks that are in the water here, a bunch of males that are cruising up and down here, and they're a lot of fun to catch. But Make sure you're letting those fish go if you don't need them. Continue to work all the way down this shoreline here. Not many redfish that have been caught on this particular shoreline. It's been primarily trout, and like I say, a lot of it's been on the magic grass, chicken of the sea, and the supermodels. We've been throwing the burner shad in here. If you can get a hold of the regular size watermelon red, it has been super productive in all three of these different areas. Get that thing rigged up with either 16th or 8th ounce jig head. Work that thing up and down, in and out of your columns. Find the grass packs. Work the edges of those. Work these deeper drops as the sun begins to rise. It's still warm. Water temps are still warming up, and as the sun rises, that water warms up shallow. So these fish will begin to recede back into that deeper water. So that needs to be your target late midday to noon if you're going to fish that late, or even afternoon. Find that deeper water, fish those edges, continue to work all up and down here. Find bait working in here. That's the number one key thing anywhere that you're going to fish, no matter what you're doing. Always got to find a bait source that's working around in here. These fish are going to swim in and amongst those areas. Again, incorporate your majors and minors into your fishing day, and you'll have a pretty productive day.
Thanks for watching. I'm Captain Larry Bell.